Alright, so I watched a TV series recently called Infinity Train. I'd recommend it. It's not amazing, but it's short, which makes it a lot more enjoyable for the short spurts I dedicated to it. There's also a really cool world with some punches which don't get pulled, even considering it's a children's cartoon. What is it about? A mysterious train in a pocket dimension rides forever and ever, taking on normal passengers, labeling them with a glowing number and confronting them with various challenges as they stride across the locomotive of doom. This is a single sentence. It's kinda like Alice in Wonderland, I suppose. Strange little story for sure. What did I like? The world. It's pretty much normal Earth, but sometimes crossing over into this weird train dimension. From the looks of it, the place it is in doesn't actually have anything in it. At all. And it's only the train. The train itself, however, can have anything in it. There's a jungle car, a giant abandoned mall, snowy mountain, gigantic kitchen with a needy giant pig baby, fed by a cream cow. It's like someone did drugs and went, what if it did like a train, the stuff, you know? None of it has to make sense, and all of them are individual little worlds, with their own laws and ideas. If you saw it, then it might sound similar to Kino's Journey or Kino no Tabi. Only there are more preachy morals and more leaving stuff up to interpretation. Second thing is the protagonist of this story. The protagonists. There are 4 seasons, and each season focuses on an entirely different group, having very little in common between them. At best, they meet once or twice, but other than that, it's a handful of separated stories, connected by the train. Over the course of the first 2 seasons, backstory gets revealed, and by the third it was interesting to see how certain things change since they last appeared. Especially the conductors, plural. I think that's a very unique way of telling a story, and I do like seeing it. It's refreshing to see a writer make a story and have the balls to say, this is over. These characters moved on with their lives, instead of milking it and becoming a knockoff Rick and Morty or something. By the way, I'm kinda completely fed up with Rick and Morty. What did I dislike? So I know I praised it, but protagonists kinda suck sometimes. Maybe it's just because I really liked the protagonist of the first season, especially because the voice actress is the narrator from Pillars of Eternity 2. I liked her in that. Delivery was a little slow, but I really like her voice. Yet, boy, does she sound weird in this, but in a quirky, awkward teen kind of way. She's just very likable to me. But then season 2 comes around with this douche-tool McGee and an angsty Magoo. They do become more interesting later, but I would definitely say that season 2 was the weakest. Season 3, though. Boy, did I love the relationship between these two, especially because it reminded me of myself. I won't elaborate. Anyway, point is that it's difficult to keep switching the main cast and make them all interesting, likable, or at least enjoyable to watch. There are definitely some lows. Also the world, while interesting, can get old with, oh boy, look at this wacky thing, oh, and what's this, a talking bell, now that's goofy, let's go, run away from these bloodthirsty gorillas, and oh no, there are some cowboy grasshoppers with guns. It's like having keys dangled in front of my face. I guess it's for kids, so this is an adult bitching about kids cartoon being childish, but this is my opinion piece, so I will bitch and moan all I want. Really, this suffers from being a story for kids, actually. I'd love a more mature take on this exact story, because there are some serious subjects tackled, and having real consequences. Season 3. Basically, I'm saying the whole thing could have been more like Season 3. Maybe even further. There's some still goofy stuff, but it wasn't awkwardly tedious. So this is me talking about this series in general, and the reason I even heard about it because it was taken off the network which made it, making it only possible to obtain through piracy. Obviously I can pretend like this is me promoting it for justice, to correct the wrong and stand up for what is right. But in reality I never would have heard or even tried it if this didn't happen. Also, being justified in pirating stuff feels good. Stick it to man, yeah! So, a few words about the seasons. The first season, I'd say, is perfect, because it's representing well what is supposed to be there. You've got the protagonist with problems, who tries to deal with them in an unhealthy way. You've got a mysterious world and challenges which get resolved and explained. And you've got funny, goofy things happen and characters join the fray. There's adventure, real problems, and ways to deal with those. I enjoy the fact that it wasn't some tearjerker for the sake of getting the most dramatic stuff happen. Like dealing with both parents getting killed in some horrible accident, and then kid gets horribly bullied, and then their pet gets run over, and then. It was a realistic person dealing with realistic issues. I think that's what this series does especially well, making believable characters and their stories. Maybe not having them be my cup of tea, but it's not a cliché or caricature of a character, which is better than appealing to a random weirdo like me. The first season also ends on a good note. It can pretty much slap the end there, and that's it. No season 2, no annoying cliffhangers or anything. I like that. And season 2 comes along and brings back a character whom I think everyone would have forgot pretty fast. She isn't awful or anything, but her attitude gets old quickly, and the pushover who's tagging with her is... Boy, do I dislike that kind of person so much. I'd rather deal with hostility than fake niceness, so I just watched because I knew there were more seasons, and I was curious what will happen with a character who has such issues with identity. Really, both of them struggle to find who they are, so there's an obvious parallel there. I'm just saying I felt like the entire season was mostly there so certain things can get explained, such as how people get on the train, and where does the number come from, and what happened to the conductor, yada yada. Season 3 then comes along and brings back a couple of characters which appeared for a short while in Season 2. And I will admit, I hated both of them from the get-go. And the characters that join them later. But then a few episodes later they grow and change, and holy hell did I love it. I understood perfectly well what they were going through and how it feels to be on both sides of the argument. It resonated so hard with me. And then the ending happens and... well, it was worth going through everything just to see that, at least. Even if the rest was garbage, to have that happen was something else. And yes, I'm trying really hard to avoid spoiling it. Season 4 was honestly pointless. I didn't like anything about it. Didn't actively dislike it or anything, but it just felt lazy. Barely remember anything from it, despite watching it less than a few minutes ago. There's a boring pencil pusher and an annoying twat. Yeah, I'm not British, I can't use British insults as well. And they want to do gigs in New York. And they get on a train. Then they meet a Belle who suffers from severe ADD. Blah blah blah. They get a gig, they play a gig. Yeah, it's just... whatever. Stuff happens. I wouldn't say it was awful, but I wouldn't recommend the 4th season. You can just stop at 3 and... boy. Season 3. Holy moly.